Welcome back to the First Home Foundations podcast. My name is Lee Anderson, and my guest today is none other than Alex Fitzgerald, otherwise known as Fitzballs, works for JLF. So JLF is a huge residential land developer operating across Queensland, Melbourne. Where else do you guys operate?
Development-wise, mostly southeast Queensland, if not all. That's been our backyard for 45 years. A little bit in Vic, and we've dabbled in New South Wales. Everything is always open for opportunity, though. Don't cut anything off. We'll go anywhere.
All right, perfect. So I guess as a developer, first question, for people who don't understand, how does a developer take a paddock and then turn that into a block of land that we can buy?
Oh, my God. The question I want to ask you is how much detail do you want to know about how the sausage is made?
Let's just go the major ingredients and the time frame.
Major ingredients. Oh my gosh, the time frame. Okay, so typically you'll have like acquisitions people who have a really good idea of areas that have got high population growth. They're very undersupplied, stuff like that. Our guys certainly look for those kind of things. And they sort of know the people on the ground. I would say from the acquisitions guys, I'll just use that general word, acquisitions guys acquiring something, it might take 4 to 6 months to negotiate how you purchase that and how you settle it. It could be a 6-month settlement, 12-month settlement, 2-year settlement. It could be forever. And it all depends on what's happening in that area. Is it a priority infrastructure area? How bullish are council on allowing residential? It's just like, how long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
Typically in our world though, because we're going for undersupplied areas that are experiencing high population growth and we sit on or slightly under the median house price and land price, so key growth corridors, it's pretty competitive today, particularly in southeast Queensland and still Victoria. I'd say purchasing under contract, we might have it under a due diligence where we try to put all of our numbers together. A little bit of it is guesswork. A little bit of it is using amazing consultants that know their shit. We might have to settle it in 6 months or so. And at that point, we are either settling it with a development approval or we're taking a punt. And it's like even a first home buyer buying something for the first time. Sometimes a developer's also taking a bit of a punt on the market, punt on interest rates, economics, etc. The market remaining as it is or getting better. So from a development approval, you hope to get to site and start actually building that thing within 2 or 3 months of your development approval.
Yep.
And then depending on the site, it could take you 9 months to actually build it. So that's when a civil contractor comes in, trucks everywhere, shit everywhere, and they actually formulate the blocks. So the roads, the services, the gas, electricity, the whole kit and caboodle. I mean, on a good day, you probably purchase to delivering practical completion 2 years.
Yep.
But that is so wide and varied today. We've got sites we bought 2019 that we still haven't delivered for reasons X, Y, and Z. Certainly not because we've chosen to delay it.
Yeah. So from a first home buyer's perspective, I guess where we start getting interested is where you're in that civil construction phase.
Yes.
So as a developer, you're trying to sell these blocks before they're actually ready. So you're in the middle of doing the civil constructions and you're wanting to sell these blocks unregistered?
Yes, absolutely. That's how we operate. Not all developers are like that. We prefer our buyer to come in and have at least some, maybe not certainty because nothing is ever certain. You never know what will be held up in the civil world or with council, but at least some kind of idea within 3 months of when they're actually going to register and settle their block of land and start building their dream home. Because first home buyers have got to figure out, so much stuff. Are they going to stop renting? Are they going to live with their parents? How long are they going to live with their parents for? Like, God, we all want to know that before we move out. So we prefer to sell whilst under construction so that we've just got the best chance of giving everyone as accurate as possible time to settle their block, start building.
So particularly for our clients in Queensland and not necessarily with you guys, because we've had a lot of clients go into your developments, but with some of the other developments, we've seen registration times blow out by like 6-12 months. What causes that to happen? Because from the first home buyer's point of view and our point of view, to be honest, we'll generally be talking with an agent, not the developer directly, or sometimes it will be the developer directly, and they're like, yeah, no worries, this will be ready in 6 months, and then we get to 5 months, and they're like, nah, it's going to be another 7 months, and we're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What happens in there?
Oh my God. So many things. Oh, I mean, it's really never the developer trying to delay. Every day that we experience a delay, it costs us so much money. So it's rarely the developer. Rarely, it's possible. So many things, like the civil contractor can go to site and discover something under the ground that was not documented anywhere, and they have to do a stop work, or council might all of a sudden change something, or we've got a situation in Homeview at the moment where a little bit different. We haven't started selling, but this is our Summerfield East project. But the state government has started building their school next door that they want to deliver by early 2027. So they're on the clock, going hard, and it's the state government. So they sort of have
priority.
Definitely priority, and they do supersede council in many ways. So in that situation, we've been delayed. However, we haven't started selling, and this is why we don't until we're on site, because they've gone to site first and they're delivering their engineering differently to how we thought. So we've got to tweak our side. So it's so many external factors. Could be from civil to council to a delay somewhere to the bank making a mistake on a piece of paperwork. Like I've seen a lot of different things. Okay. They're all pretty quirky, and a lot of them don't always sound believable, but I think you will find, and I'm speculating here, those developers who are having 6, 8, 12, like significant delays, they might have started selling too early.
Yeah. And then we've heard and seen not so much recently, but certainly going back a couple of years ago, a lot of these contracts have sunset clauses in them.
Yes.
So a sunset clause is your first home buyer signs up today, but there's a clause in the contract that says if this hasn't settled in 18 months, we can cancel the contract. And then we get like 12 months down the track and property prices have gone up by, 100, 200 grand a block. First home buyers celebrating because they've made all of this money and they haven't even got the block yet. And the developer, it seems like they're sitting there going, we could make another 100 grand a block here. And it feels like sometimes they push out registration so they can invoke the sunset clause. And there was a lot of stuff in the media about that. I forget how, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think in Queensland in particular, the government made some changes around sunset clauses, and we haven't seen that happen since then. But can you just talk to sunset clauses, the risks there, the changes the government's made, why we're not seeing that so often now?
Yeah. Well, sunset clauses are meant to protect both parties, right? So it can go both ways, and I know it is the big bad developer nearly always, but I will defend the developer a little bit in this case. But
defend myself.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it go both ways. I actually have. My career hasn't been that long. It's only been 15 years, but I have seen it go both ways, and that's because I've worked in multiple markets. So they've all cycled at different times, and I've seen the other side in Victoria where prices didn't plummet, but finance became very difficult. Yeah. And a lot of first home buyers, second home buyers, investors invoked the sunset clause because they didn't have the means to get finance to settle. So it wasn't actually that the prices went down. It was that they couldn't get finance anymore. That was in 2019 in the Royal Commission. Very different. But the sunset clause was meant to protect both sides. On the developer side, when there is a significant delay, kind of like what I talked about before, often prices go up for the developer as well. So typically, if you see a significant price increase in the market of the price of the land, the price of the lots, prices of the houses, You'll also see significant cost uplift in the civil construction, how much it costs to pay the headworks, which is all of your council infrastructure fees, all of that jazz. And developers are developing to make a profit. They're a business of their own, you know. Some of them probably want higher profits than others. I mean, the typical is probably working on a 15%, which is like a normal sort of business. So it just really depends. Again, if they went too early, sold too early, hadn't got all their costs locked in, the market's run in price for end buyer, but it's also increased significantly in construction costs, which we absolutely saw over COVID. Everybody knows that. It wasn't exclusive to building a home. It was also significantly increased in the civil contractor department. And that was because everyone's being pulled everywhere. So retaining walls, laying your asphalt road, like just every single component went up.
Yeah.
It was because there was so much work going around. People saying, well, you know, the subcontractor saying, well, you know, I'm getting $1.50 a brick. I'm charging $3 a brick now, you know, whoever wants me. So that kind of thing, you know.
So for a developer, so with a home, for example, say we've got a fixed price build.
Yep.
With a developer, do you have fixed price civil works? Yeah.
Great question. Yes, we will typically operate on fixed price, but there are always latent conditions is what they're called. So it could be something like I mentioned before. It's under the ground. No one knew about it. And ultimately, if it is discovered and it wasn't documented anywhere and no one could have known, the developer does have to pay.
Yep.
But also in significant situations where you have a bloody COVID blowout, same, the civil contractors are also running their own businesses. And a lot of renegotiations had to be made. Like, look, we just can't deliver it for this. We're going to be at a significant loss. So, you know, that's where you'd hope that everyone sort of has to come to the party a little bit to move forward and make things happen. Such is life, such is business.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that first home buyers have about developers?
That one that you just mentioned, the like price gouging. You didn't say that, I did. But yeah, I think that the price gouging, like it's a funny one because depending on how long a developer's sort of been in business, it just depends what they've seen, you know. So a lot of them are a lot more conservative, some are a bit more aggressive. But I think many have like a crap, how long could this really take, this development? You know, it seems profitable now, but we may not deliver it. You know, are the civil contractors, are the state governments, are that who else could interrupt, you know? So I think it's always a big bad developer trying to go for 50% profits and all of that jazz. I'm sure anyone operating any business would love a significant profit, but there's so much that can go wrong in development world. I'm sure like many things. I think price gouging is probably a bit of a misconception. And then, yeah, killing contracts, like as you mentioned with sunset clauses, I think now they're called final end dates. Again, it's to protect both purchaser and developer, however. But yeah, just killing those because they want to make significantly more money. Typically, yeah, costs have gone up significantly.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I don't think anyone talks about that. They just talk about the price going up. Obviously, like for a first home buyer, having a contract cancelled and then having it reissued to you at $100,000 more, it hurts.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think just on that, like developers, me speaking for all developers, not, yes, sorry guys. But developers love having first home buyers in their land estates. Like it's always been, you know, the great Australian dream, if you want to, if anyone calls it that anymore, so own your own home, block of land, decent sized house, and you know, you raise a family. Like I think the developers also live that great Australian dream where they want first home buyers in their developments. We certainly do. We love it. We want them to make money. We want them to succeed. We want them, hopefully one day it will become an investment property and they can go on and upgrade. So I think it's always a wonderful story to have first home buyers in there and a higher percentage than the rest. But it can't come at a significant cost to the development, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the difference between a good estate and a shit estate?
I mean, Lee, you tell me. I'm sure I'm sure you would know, right? That's probably a little bit perceptive. Is that perceptive?
Well, you tell me, from a developer's point of view, you've seen plenty of developers. I'm sure you've seen good ones, you've seen bad ones. Like, are there things that first home buyers can look out for with estates, or is it really just a roll of the dice?
Talking to a numbers girl. So for me, it's really how close are you to where you need to be. This is also personal too. Like, I don't want to live hours and hours away from where I've got to be every day if I'm working in an office. But, you know, how close are you to public transport? How close are you to schools? How close are you to childcare? That's the life that I would choose to live in, and I think many purchases in our estates as well. So I think it's all really numbers, distance to those things, proximity, and I guess too, like, are there other people moving there? Can you afford it? I think it's more about those things. It needs to be very personal rather than, does everyone else want to live here? How much have they spent on their playground in the middle? And some amazing developers, they spend crazy amounts of money on their beautiful signature estate playground. That's fantastic and wonderful, and that can have a bit of a bearing on families. But for me, I think it's, can you afford it? Is the block of land enough for you to sort of deliver at least your stepping stone home in your world of first home buyers, and proximity to everything. If you want to dive deeper, you can go population growth and all that jazz. But I think as a first home buyer, you've just got to sort of stick to what is immediately going to benefit your family, right? Is that an okay answer? Is that what you wanted?
I'll allow it. Do you believe there's a housing crisis?
Absolutely.
What's causing the housing crisis?
Undersupply.
What's causing the undersupply?
Oh,
Actually, sorry, let's take it a step backwards. So I agree with you that it's a supply problem, but when you listen to politicians politicking, they're always talking about, it's migration, it's this, it's that, it's the other. And they tend to be looking at demand side issues, which I think are very popular. Like you get Pauline coming out saying, kick everyone out. And sure, there's an element of that in that we can't have population growth without having the infrastructure to support them. But my point of view is that in a lot of ways, Australia is a Ponzi scheme in that we have all of these old people that need to retire, that we need to support. We have a huge welfare state, be that right or wrong, it is what it is. And what we require to pay for that is a big tax base.
yeah.
Now, we could get that tax base potentially from other places, mining, whatever, but leaving that to the side for the moment, if we're just looking at the way that we do things now, a lot of that tax base has to come from workers.
Yes.
And we need to get those workers from somewhere.
Yep.
So if we don't have migration, Australia stops the way it is.
Yes.
So we would need to go backwards in our standard of living.
Yes.
Unless we keep increasing, oh God, I've lost my train of thought.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I think so. The last that I knew, 12% of our population were turning 65 or older. So if you say that the average 65-year-old is retiring, which they're not always, but let's just say 12% are retiring at 65, turning 65, and only 6% of our population are turning 14 or 15, which is our entering your able to work age, which a lot of people don't start working at 14 or 15. So on a very simplified percentage of those numbers, double the amount of people are retiring that are turning 14 or 15. So then you've got to bring in a whole lot of people to fill that gap. And of course, if we want to continue great healthcare, great subsidies, all of those things that come with being Australian, pension, all of that, we've got to keep the working population high and the unemployment low. So, of course, migration has a significant factor on undersupply, but it is very much necessary to underpin our economy. I won't get too political, though.
Yeah.
Speaking from a developer perspective,
and then switching to developer, we're going, okay, migration has to happen without significant change.
Yes.
So let's assume migration is going to continue.
Yes.
Let's focus then on the supply problem.
Yep.
Because it's demand and supply, right? So
Yes.
we've got demand. We can't stop the demand based on our 3-second conversation. So how then do we increase supply?
So I'll speak from, so it's a lot of different things. Like we do need to, in many capital cities, move to a more apartment style living to increase density, certainly in the shorter run. Australia hasn't really done that. It's tried to, with sort of Victoria particularly has sat on an oversupply of apartments for many years, and that's because of what I mentioned before. The great Australian dream is still very much to own a house on a block of dirt. So we do need to go for a much more dense model and quicker. So you've seen councils now and state governments force more density, not force, but I'd say encourage density. So you've got Victoria is supporting secondary dwellings, i.e. granny flats, without a planning permit. So you need a building permit, and they do have to check some boxes, but they effectively are sort of like your granny flat style. So that's to sort of unlock some and hopefully intermediate density, if not fast density, to encourage the supply. The solution is ultimately density, but the difficulty we have in development world, and I speak from the development side of, we call it greenfield land, so your high growth corridors where they are blocks of land and typically with single dwellings, maybe double dwellings. The problem is services. So when I say services, I mean typically sewage. Sometimes you'll be driving down a highway as an average layman, and you'll hit. Let's use Gold Coast, Brisbane, for example. Like you'll sort of pass the Coomera, maybe Pimpamai area on the freeway going north to Brisbane.
And there's cane fields
and
for miles.
Exactly. So you've got houses, and then all of a sudden there's just like, cane fields, and they're like, why can't everyone just live here? And, blah, blah, blah. And obviously the answer to that is aplenty, but typically when you sort of see this like segmentation, it's because it depends on where the services are. And I'd say in the areas that we've looked, the biggest challenge is sewage. So if there's a site ending with all of these houses, there's hundreds of houses, and then all of a sudden there's, not more houses for another, what it feels like 5 or 6 kilometres, and what you said, there feels like cane fields in between. It's very likely that it's either undevelopable area, so there might be engineering issues like flooding, whatever, or environmental, or the cost to get things like sewage there or electricity or water is far greater than any feasibility that any developer will be able to deliver. And if they are bullish on bringing it to there, it usually relies on the council, maybe even the state government, to fund part thereof.
Yep.
It's very complicated. And then there's road upgrades and like everything. So,
and it's often things you wouldn't think of. So we've got a development site in Brisbane at the moment that's infill, so it's nothing compared to what you guys do, but just a little 14, 15 block one. And we had an agreement with a neighbour so we could connect up to stormwater. And then we've gone to council and they're like, that stormwater connection can't take the amount of water that would go in there. So our option is either to get another neighbour on a different side to agree to let us run a pipe underneath their land, or if we can't do that, to connect to the stormwater which can take it, the amount we would need to spend then makes the development unfeasible.
Exactly.
So you're looking at a 10,000 square metre block, so an acre block in the middle of suburbia where you go, piece of piss, just develop it.
Exactly.
But things like that infrastructure can make it unfeasible very, very quickly.
Exactly.
And obviously our market, we're buying that for first home buyers.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing it is we can't get land in Queensland. We can get land. We can't get enough. So we're starting to get our own estate, so we've got guaranteed supply for our clients. But we have a problem like that, and it makes it literally unfeasible. No one can afford to buy it.
And sometimes you don't discover that until it's too late. You've already bought the site or like, oh shit. Kind of answering your question before of like why there's major delays or you know, there's just mistakes somewhere and you'll find out, shit, this can't actually service 100 homes or 100 people or whatever. That's probably an extreme case, but exactly. So I think I said the issue to supply in our world is servicing, but it's services, I mean infrastructure, exactly what you mentioned. And it's typically sewage, like high trunk sewage network, very difficult, very costly, very expensive to get out to where you need to be. And I'm experiencing that in multiple areas right now on developments that we own.
Yeah. So for you, the solution to the housing crisis is
a lot of money, a shitload of money from the state government and the local councils. Yeah, look, they are trying. They are trying, I must say. It's just very political. And then all of a sudden you have a change of, political power, if you will, and sort of things sort of go back to square one. But I mean, really, the solution is either developers coming together and trying to deliver it themselves, which doesn't always work because they all have sort of competing agendas, if you will, but also it's not straightforward, or it does rely on a state government giving out grants for infrastructure, which is happening, and it's a very tedious process for them. You know, they'll put out we're going to put $20 billion towards infrastructure in this pocket of southeast Queensland, and then all of a sudden they get 2,500 applications. So then they've got to go through that, and then it holds everything up, and then the market goes up $100,000, and then costs go up, and so on and so forth.
Or if you're sitting on a block, your holding costs have gone up.
Yeah, totally. And your build price, that's right, for the end purchaser. So the solution is a lot of money, a lot of money from a higher up. It's really got to be run by the federal government or the state government, because local councils, you know, they sometimes do have their hands tied behind their backs with, I guess, capped spending, you know.
So if we've got a block of land, or you've got a block of land that you've developed, what percentage of the cost of that block would be government and compliance costs?
Oh, you're killing me. I'm 31 weeks pregnant and I've forgotten the answer to this because my cousin and I, who I work with, we did those numbers, I want to say a year ago.
Yeah.
I want to say a year ago. Let me just think. I couldn't give you a percentage, but let me think about this. It really depends what area you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you're in a priority infrastructure area and the council is prioritising you and you're part of their sequence of development, if you will, it's probably going to cost you slightly less. It could be anywhere between 80 and 100 grand. If you factor in, infrastructure costs, additional charges, you've got sewage charges, stormwater. You've got all of these different levies you've got to pay, and then also you've got to pay for your development application, which is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Like it's not a tick and flick exercise. It's extremely expensive, and all the engineering's got to be ticked off, everything. It could be up to 80 grand. And then if you're in areas that are outside the priority infrastructure, and you could be outside by 500 metres, 200 metres, like you could be trying to develop that cane field that's very close, but you're outside, it's going to cost you 100 grand, $120,000, cost you more because they've sort of got to like prioritise you and think outside the area that they know. So it's a lot.
So if I've got a $500,000 block, at least 100 of that is...
Yes, so 20%.
Yeah, plus then you're paying your GST on top of that as a developer. So we're talking a third at least of the price of a property.
Maybe not a third. Maybe not quite a third. You mean all government charges?
Yeah.
Not quite a third, but it's very high. If you consider, like that's very, very high.
Quarter of it? 25%?
Maybe, yeah.
We're not going to hold you to this.
Around 25%, yeah. Again, it depends what area you're in. If it's private infrastructure, or you could be in a neighbourhood development precinct where they're going hard, but you've got to pay to upgrade all of the roads around you so that they can connect all the area and bring on all this development. So it's a little bit of a what council, what area, but yeah, it could be up to 100 grand.
How would you compare the Melbourne and the Southeast Queensland land markets?
Whoa. So, like, where do I start? Oh, my God. So I guess for some context for listeners, I am a Gold Coast girl, grew up there, moved to Melbourne in 2014. Whoa.
Yeah. Met your wonderful husband. Started popping out babies
Yeah, all
at
that
a rate of knots.
jazz. Yeah, at the rate of knots. There's like 1.5 children that exist currently. So Gold Coast girl, worked in the Southeast Queensland market, still do all of our developments in there today, manage all of our Southeast Queensland developments. But yes, have lived in Melbourne for the last 12 years. And I've seen Melbourne like boom really hard. And now I've seen Southeast Queensland boom really hard. Today, their major difference is, I suppose, well, Melbourne is cheaper and it shouldn't be because our population is significantly higher and also growing at a significantly faster rate. We are the fastest growing capital city and we're the most populated capital city, and we've also trumped Sydney, only just maybe 400,000 or 500,000 people more. Melbourne does currently have more supply, and I think what we've seen, or I know what we've seen, is investors have sort of run scared from Victoria in the last 3 or 4 years, and maybe first home buyers as well. But first home buyers sort of just they typically buy a little bit when they're ready. They should be a bit more aggressive, but we can all understand why they buy a bit more when they're ready. So they're sort of been plodding along. Victoria is just cheaper today. It's a little bit easier to get land, build a house, but it won't be for much longer. There has been a fair amount of supply just sort of chilling on the market the last 2 or 3 years. Everyone's attention in Australia has been diverted to Southeast Queensland, Adelaide, Perth, all the sort of sexy areas that the media is talking about. It's very media driven, very sentiment. Everyone says Victoria's screwed, blah, blah, blah. It'll bounce back. Absolutely bounce back. So I think the difference has been sentiment, and that there has been supply sitting on the market in Victoria because sentiment has been everyone needs to run scared from Victoria, when it's not really true. It's actually a fantastic time to buy. You're not competing. You're not missing out. You're not worried you're going to experience $50,000 price increases from stage A to Z on each stage, that is. So the difference is that Victoria might not feel as hot today, but like every cycle, it will return. Southeast Queensland's super hot, super competitive, much more expensive than Victoria today, but the supply is dwindling.
Are you starting to see that change in Victoria now?
I saw it. I started to see it 6 months ago.
Yeah, we did as well. But tell me your experience.
I think as a developer, you start to get opportunities coming up in Victoria, or people offering you opportunities, or you're seeing maybe builders that you deal with asking about Victoria. It's sort of the sentiment changes. More people start talking about it or realizing, oh my God, I can't get into Southeast Queensland. I need to look elsewhere. And it's sort of people just start diverting their attention, and then it just starts to come up even more. I'd say it's not quite at like simmering point yet. Like, the pot is sort of starting to get a little bit bubbly before it starts to boil.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just a lot of people talking about it. And developers in Victoria that I speak to frequently, they've started to fully get through all of their titled stock. So the stock that's been registered, sitting there for 6 to 12 months. And interestingly, if I compared this, I'm going to call it a quiet period in Victoria, because by no means was it a downturn. It was very quiet. To when I first came to Melbourne. I moved to Melbourne in 2014, but I had actually worked that market for 2 years. And in 2012, 2013, there was developers giving away blocks with $50,000 rebates, offering Toyota Yaris's. Like, they were doing anything to get through their stock, right? Did not see anything of that sort in the last 2 years here. Whilst the media might make it out to be that way, people say blood on the streets, all of that jazz. Didn't see that. Developers just said, no, we're sitting on it. The price is the price. We might let you buy subject to finance. Like, that's their give and take. We'll let you buy subject to finance. You might only pay $1,000 deposit. They've been a little bit easier on terms, but they've held so hard on their pricing. And now they've started to get through all their titled stock. And now what we're going to see is the Victorian market start to sell further out from titles. So they're selling stock they haven't built yet.
Yeah.
You're probably seeing that as well, right? It's like
Absolutely.
6 months out, maybe even 12 months. Crazy, madness. See, 18 months I saw the other day.
Yeah.
Someone's selling stock somewhere that's titling in December 2027. Scary stuff.
How is the land price set? So how do you set the price for a block of land?
It's very much comparable market. So who is selling what in close proximity? And then obviously you got to figure out your costs, all of your costs, alongside your revenue in your GRs, we say your gross revenue, in one go. And then you are trying to probably forecast a bit of the market, because when you're doing a feasibility as a developer today, you're probably not going to sell that stock for 12 months, maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years. Depends on your development and how you're structured as a developer. So you're sort of trying to look into your crystal ball a little bit, but not a lot. And if you're lucky, the market will have gone up by the time you've bought it to when you're actually starting to sell it. And if you're unlucky, the opposite will happen. Or you run your feasibility on the likelihood that, I guess, whatever they are today, it will sort of stick. But it's really comparable pricing. So who's selling what around you? And then, do you have cause to be higher than them? So some developers probably deliver significant infrastructure like that beautiful park I mentioned before. They can probably charge a little bit more, or they're very exclusive, or they're just larger master plan communities, so they can sort of ask for a bit more money. So it just depends, but it's really comparable pricing, because at the end of the day, valuations do come into play.
As a developer, do you find it easier to operate in Southeast Queensland or in Melbourne, and kind of taking out, taking out the difficulty with acquiring sites? Because I imagine it's easier to get them in Melbourne at the moment, but I'm more talking about dealing with civil constructors, the government, that type of thing. Do you find it easier in Queensland or Victoria?
It's not state driven, it's council driven.
Right.
Yeah. It depends on the council. Okay. Some councils just, they've got it going on. They just have awesome people inside. They're real champions of gentrification, but they're also very protective of planning. But you can work with them, and there's a lot of compromise, but they're willing to compromise. It's like everything in life. It's so people driven. And then there's councils that are just, I don't know, they maybe just don't have the same mandates internally. They're not as pro-compromise or pro-solution, and they're just sort of sticking to their rule book, which you've got to respect as a developer. It just is what it is. And then you'll have councils that are great and they sort of have a significant change internally, or they're hard to deal with, and then they have a great change internally. So I wouldn't say it is state-driven for us.
Yeah, it's local council driven.
It's very local council driven. And I'd say most developers would probably agree. It also depends how much you're doing in that council. The more you get to know people in a council, the sort of greater you become at delivering in that council, I suppose.
If demand continues to outstrip supply like it is at the moment, what's going to happen with prices?
They'll just keep going up.
Do you think there's a cap? People, the whole time I've worked in this industry, everyone has forever said, oh my God, no one can afford it. It can't keep going up.
Yeah.
But at the moment, even I'm going, Jesus, bloody expensive. How are people going to keep up?
Yeah.
What do you see happening there? Surely there gets to a stage where people just can't afford it anymore.
Absolutely, but that's when we see people cycle to different cities because they chase affordability. We saw that in Adelaide the last 4 or 5 years. It actually sort of started happening before COVID. But, you know, when we did think there was going to be like a catastrophic amount of deaths and everyone was going to lose their jobs in COVID, a lot of people moved to regional areas and to those capital cities that were much more affordable. So typically what you'll see is just sort of a cycle of where everybody lives. Or they might move further out. I guess it's also about compromise, right? Maybe you compromise to a apartment, but in an area that you want to live in.
Yeah, you also start looking to density. So,
Yep.
you know, maybe I'm in a townie instead of in...
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Looking at density, sort of changing what you're happy with. Just depends on so many different things. But if I think about the average small family, they're probably going to chase affordability and maybe slightly change their lifestyle a bit to or where they live to maintain their lifestyle perhaps.
Why do prices in developments rise across stages? So stage 1, stage 2 tends to cost more than stage 1, etc. and so forth.
Cost increase. Yeah, cost increase. And also I guess you become a more established development. So you've got families living in there. You've sort of started to actually build a bit more of a community. But often, depending how big the development is, a developer will have an idea of their average price across the whole development, but they'll start the first stage a little bit under that average price just to get people moving in and start to get some momentum. So it's not necessarily that there's been significant price increase the whole time. It definitely does happen though. But usually they'll sort of start to sell on that lower end or slightly under and then build up and hopefully get to a point where, you know, it's a very well-established estate that people want to live in and, you know, there's a little bit of money towards the end because the developer doesn't take any money out until the end. We don't make any money typically unless you've bought really well or you've sat on something for 10 years or whatever. Like they don't get paid until the last block settles, if you will.
Is it possible for a first home buyer to get a bargain in an estate? Does that exist?
I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, has anyone ever got a bargain and then actually thought they got a bargain? Because I feel like everyone buys something and goes, that was a good buy. Oh, why was it so easy? Shit, did I pay too much? It's almost like we just mentally trick ourselves. I look, never say never. I think you could perhaps get a bargain. It might be through a family member or something like that. I'm not sure if it'll be through a developer unless something significant happens, but never say never. There could always be a bargain somewhere. You never know.
Some of the things that I thought about for first home buyers with this is you might not get a bargain per se, but there's definitely blocks that you can go for that are going to have less competition. So if I'm looking at a builder who's buying for investors, they're looking for blocks that are, 12 and a half frontage, 28 deep, whatever it is. Where if you're a first home buyer and you're happy to go with, like a 280 to 330 square meter block, you're going to have less competition on that. If you go for a block that is an irregular shape, you're going to have a little bit less competition.
Definitely on the irregular, maybe not on the smaller blocks these days. I wish we could deliver more smaller blocks, but the councils won't let us. But look, you're right. I wouldn't say bargain. I think that's probably a bit of an extreme term, but there is definitely less competition on blocks that are that have a little bit more slope or they're irregular in shape. You're exactly right. Exactly right. Be my guest. I would love to sell those.
What are some of the risks for first home buyers buying off the plan?
Risks. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is their finance. I know that's not development related, but that is always a big risk. So we like to make sure that they've sort of got all of that sorted or they've got good guidance in a broker or something like that.
So probably talking a little bit more to this. If you're buying something off the plan, typically what we're going to want the client to have done is to have done a pre-approval.
Yes.
But when you do a pre-approval as a first home buyer, it's important to know that this isn't a promise from the bank to lend you money.
Absolutely.
It's just an indication of what you could lend. But in doing that, the bank will run a credit decision. And what they're looking at is they're looking at three things. So they're going to look at your servicing, which is your income versus your expenses. They're going to look at your credit history, which they do mostly via your credit report. And the other thing they're going to look at is your deposit and costs, which is your savings and the grants that you've got available to you. So the biggest thing that we see happen, or the biggest mistake that we see happen with first home buyers, particularly on blocks which blow out for a little bit. So I get a pre-approval today. That pre-approval, depending on the bank, will typically last 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
And at that point, the bank will often just want refreshed documents to confirm everything's the same. But some of the crazy things that we see first home buyers do, the biggest one is they change jobs. So they've got this really awesome full-time job that's paying well, but they hate it.
Yeah.
So in the middle of them purchasing or waiting for this block of land to title, they go from a full-time job to a casual job that they absolutely love, that pays 1/3 of the money, and then all of a sudden they don't service.
Yeah.
So I think a really important thing for first home buyers is, yes, there's some risk associated with what you're doing by getting a pre-approval and then going on to an off-the-plan purchase. But the reality is, for most people, particularly in the Queensland market, and I think we're going to see this happening more and more in Melbourne, is it's either that or nothing. You either go off the plan or there's no blocks available.
Totally.
So what you need to do is you need to mitigate that risk. And the way you mitigate that risk is not changing your financial position for the worse between pre-approval and settlement.
So, Lee, what you're saying is be miserable for another 6 months. I totally get it. And as a developer, we do see that all the time. Or even the first home buyers hang their hat on the registration date never changing. And that's really hard to educate as a developer. Luckily, we have wonderful groups like you guys who can do that education for us. But it is hard to explain why we're having the delay, or, you know, why it might be another 2 months that they're not going to settle. And a lot of them have made significant financial decisions around that settlement being exactly the month of March or whatever it may be. A lot of them, you know, they might sell an investment or, you know, sell a jet ski or whatever it is, and then you know, we're not ready to settle yet. So they make significant financial decisions based on the title profile not changing. So that's probably similar to what you've said, but I would say really that's probably the greatest risk is finance for a first home buyer, and just the timing of when they're actually going to settle and then build their house and move in.
Yeah, I think you're right with, well, no, I think you're right. I know you're right with
Okay,
registration dates.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at a registration date as a first home buyer, you've just got to accept that might be 3 to 6 months wrong.
And that's the same with apartments, townhouses, like everything. Nobody is completely amiss of that possibility. And when I say nobody, no developer or builder, like that is just a reality. It is a bit of guesswork.
Yeah. You brought up apartments, and I just want to quickly talk to apartments because we were talking with another developer yesterday, actually. And
what do you mean you were talking with another developer? Sorry, what?
I was thinking about you the entire time I was there.
Well, can I say my husband is an apartment developer, so we trade notes all the time.
Oh no,
I know, he's no good.
But this developer was saying, do you guys ever do apartments for your first home buyers? And I said to him, no, we don't. And the reason we don't is this. So when we were talking earlier about how a first home buyer gets approved, in a pre-approval, they just look at you, right? But when they look to give you a full approval, they also look at the thing that you're purchasing. And with what they do in order to do that is they get an independent valuation done on that property. And one of the big issues with apartments is you will purchase that apartment for $800,000, and then the valuer, when it comes time to settle, will say, no, it's only worth $700,000. And that type of thing happens more often than not in my experience with apartments. But the thing is, the banks agreed to lend you 95% of the purchase price, but they will only lend you 95% of the valuation amount. So if you purchase for 800, the valuation comes in at 700, you have to come up with $100,000 cash in order to settle the purchase. And this is why we steer so far clear of apartment sales, because often the numbers don't add up.
Well, and I would also say too, just knowing what I know from trading notes with the old ball and chain, is that like most apartments, like I'd say that that title profile that we talk about blowing out, we're talking 3 months, 6 months. Like in apartments world, it's significantly more. It could be 12 months, it could be 18 months, because often they're selling way before they've even started and even appointed a builder. And that's because usually there's quite a lot more that they've got to sell and sort of, I suppose, have pre-sales to cover all of their debt.
Well, they've got to get pre-sales to get their finance to fund it.
Well, land developers, some do as well. So it depends on your finance structure. It depends on the developer. But typically an apartment building, if it's 80 to 100 apartments, they're all being delivered in one go. Whereas usually, like, unless it's a very large master plan community, your land estates are totally pulling figures out of nowhere, but like it might be sort of 50 blocks of land to 70 blocks, but you're delivering services under the ground, blocks of land and roads, whereas apartments, like you're building vertical and you've got to fit out the apartment, put all the, bells and whistles in it. It's just very different. Seems sexier. But I think dirt is sexier. I think the old block of dirt is a lot sexier.
Why do some estates restrict what builder you can use in there?
This is an interesting one. I get asked this all the time. Have you restricted, is there any builders we can't use? And I'm like, no. I believe it's often to just protect the aesthetic of the estate. Maybe there's been builders in the past that have done the wrong thing by that developer. They might have destroyed a lot of the beautiful landscaping, or they've delivered subpar products. You've got to think through the developer's eyes. If they're delivering the first, 100 blocks, and they've got another 300 blocks in the balance of the estate, they've got to, uphold the aesthetic of the estate, thinking about the balance 300 blocks they've got to sell. So I would say, whilst we've never done that, but we're not a significant master plan community developer delivering 500 to 1,000 blocks in one estate, it's usually to uphold aesthetics.
So clearly not saying you're doing this, because I've never known you guys to restrict builders.
No, we don't.
But we've heard rumours on the street that developers are getting kickbacks from builders, and that's why they're restricting.
Or it could be the agent selling their land.
Yeah.
The agent, I don't mean you guys, this is probably going to get me in trouble. But yeah, sometimes there's intermediary agents selling the land and they are getting kickbacks. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is a product of a severely undersupplied market where people are sort of desperate, So that is an interesting perspective. I hadn't considered that, but I have heard of that happening. Yeah. And we get offered as a developer to prioritize certain builders or agents and get extra money. But my view was always, if I employed somebody who did that, I found out they were doing it, like they're out of there. So I wouldn't do it.
So what you're hearing rumours of, and we're not pointing the finger at anyone, this is just kind of what's being heard around the trap, is you as the developer will appoint an agent to sell the blocks, and that agent on the side will do a deal with the builder to get paid to only let them build in there, and the developer won't know about it. It's a little side hustle from them.
I would say so, yeah. I've seen that. And as a developer, I've been offered from builders to be paid to sell blocks of land. So we'll give you $3,000 per lot that you give us. So I don't know if they add it to the end build or whatever they do. I don't know. But that's just a product of a severely undersupplied market.
Yeah.
I guess it happens in every industry, right? Like people offer to pay extra for things. It's the same with the civil contractors and the subcontractors. You know, they're like, well, you got to pay me more and I'll prioritize you.
Yeah, so I've heard about that with developers who in order to get civil contractors to work on their jobs faster, say, hey, we'll give you a 20% stake in the development if you do us first, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really heard about that. I'm sure it's alive and well, but definitely the builders and the agents and the kickbacks, for sure. And usually the developer's probably not aware.
Yeah. And it's it's difficult to explain the business of the industry to a first home buyer.
Of course.
And then what a disadvantage that they're at coming into this, because it's like it's a sea that's full of sharks, and there's lots of good people in here, but there's a lot of sharks who are just making as much as they can. And they're
as the middleman. Yeah.
And they're Johnny come latelys. And the thing, well, they are. Like
I've never heard that before.
Haven't you? Johnny come lately? People who come and go because they come in, they rape and pillage, and they get a really bad reputation.
Yes.
And then they're kicked out of the industry forever.
It's the same in development world, by the way. Like you see that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're a first home buyer, you are coming in at such a significant knowledge disadvantage that you couldn't possibly know all of this crap that goes on.
Yeah.
Just from high level stuff, and the high level stuff is on market versus off market, to really like getting into the weeds with kickbacks being paid and why. But yeah, it's difficult to navigate, which, shameless plug. That's why people like us are so important.
No, it's true. And I mean, like, I'm not being paid to be on this podcast, but like it is sort of a lot more of a pleasure from a developer perspective to work with groups that are doing the right thing and also guiding the first home buyer. We get called by first home buyers all the time, or they secure a block at a good time and it maybe is like a little bit skew-if to what they need to build their perfect dream home, and a builder will say to them, nah, let this block go because like we can't deliver what you want on it, and then they're cutting it loose and you're just thinking, what? Like you're so lucky to get your hands on this block of land, and a builder has talked you out of it. Maybe because you're like, I really want to build this house and nothing else with no compromise to the house as a first home buyer. But
far more likely it's because the builder can't be fucked.
Well, they want to keep this business of this person's build, but they can't physically deliver what they want on their lot. I don't know. Like, I don't want to, there's so many fantastic builders out there who work with us, love them all. But yeah, there's some that it's really hard, and you have so many first home buyers at a knowledge disadvantage, like you mentioned, walk away from great friggin' blocks that they ain't going to be able to get again, or they are going to be more expensive when they try to get in the next release. That's painful to see. You'd see it far more than me, but as a developer, when you're witnessing it and you know that like you're pretty much nearly all sold out, or your next stage is going to be more expensive because costs have gone up, or you're going to deliver a childcare centre or whatever, it's brutal watching them walk away.
And what we try to let first home buyers know is that people often won't say to you, I don't want to do that, I can't be bothered. Instead, they will tell you that it can't be done. And it happens right from the very beginning. So we have brokers and banks who go, no, you can't get a loan. I'm like, that's not true. You can get a loan.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work to get the loan, and they didn't want to do it. And then, same thing that happens with builders. Builders will say, I mean, split levels are a classic one.
Yes.
Where builders will go, no, you can't build on that. And I'm like, that is just out and out not true. You can build it. You in particular, Mr. Builder, don't want to build on it. But the problem for first home buyers is they get told no and they believe it. They don't get second opinions from people. And then they'll go, particularly with loans where like a broker who is lazy, just doesn't want to do it. It's easier to deal with, investors or whatever it is, will say, no, you can't get a loan. And they'll believe that for 5 years. And in that 5 years, property will literally go up by 300-400 grand. So that person being lazy costs the first home buyer so much. But because they don't know any better, like you talk to a professional, you believe what they're saying. But not all brokers are created equal. Not all builders are created equal. Not all developers are created equal either.
100%. And you know what? From a developer perspective, it's the same. Like, you can't just, one town planner might say, no, you can't do 100 blocks here. And another town planner will say, well, actually, if they're this size and we actually look at it from this approach and we do this under the planning scheme, it's like everything. Yeah, I'm a really firm believer, personally and professionally, like you need to get told no at least 3 times. Because otherwise you'll never get it and nothing will ever be made happen.
You've just described my entire dating life.
Your dating life. A little scary. But, there's just everyone has had a different walk of life. Everyone has different experiences. You just don't know what angle someone's going to look at something. It's a shame because, when a seed of doubt has been planted, particularly for a first home buyer, like it's hard and it is a big decision. It is a big decision. Ironically, speak to every first home buyer 3 or 5 years later and they're like, it's the best thing that I ever did. Or anyone who's bought their first property. Maybe most people, let's not say everyone. Because, there are bad experiences out there, but I think it's more likely to go okay if you seek the right help and seek to understand as well. I think many try not to understand, but learning is ultimately where it'll be your secret weapon. You'll be armed and dangerous.
We're going to need to start wrapping this up, but there is one thing that I wanted to talk about. So you are 30?
I'm 30 excluding GST.
And you have 6 properties, is that correct?
Yeah. So 5 investments, and then last year bought my principal place of residence finally.
So
Yeehaw.
When did you buy your first home and how the hell did you get to 6 properties by 33 years old?
Wow, that this is the last question, not the first, because you said we don't have long. Okay, so I bought my first property when I was 21 and I actually had contracted on one before that and the bank absolutely laughed at me. I think I was earning like $45,000 a year. It was just me. I didn't quite have enough savings. I tried to buy a $400,000 house, laughed at me. I was devastated. And I tried to buy as an investor because I was living at home. Life was pretty cushy. Yada, yada. Got my shit together and about, I want to say 8 months later, I was still just 21. I was 20 grand short. I said to my dad, look, I've got X amount of money. I can't remember. Got X amount of money, but I need another 20,000. Can you please loan me for 2 years? And my dad loves a pitch. He was like, yes, I'll consider it, no beard, but doing the whole, He said, I'll lend you 20 grand at 6% per annum. You've got to pay me back in 2 years. So got a loan from my dad to buy it as an investor because I just knew that I wanted to travel and I didn't want to live in the house, etc. So I just knew that, but I did run both of the numbers at the time. It was $420,000. The val came in $10,000 short. It seemed like a disaster at the time. But as life goes on, that's not a big deal at all. And then from there, I more or less sort of purchased every 2 years or so, and I just purchased wherever I could afford. So the second one was in Queensland, the third one was in Victoria, fourth one was in Victoria.
In Pimpama?
No, the first one was in Pimpama. Yeah, the first one was Pimpama.
So you paid $400,000 in Pimpama?
$420,000.
How much is it worth now?
Well, I haven't had a valuation done lately, but I think 850, maybe nearly 900,000.
Surely more than that.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should. It's technically Ormo. Maybe if it was Pimpama, it would be higher price.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's 585 square meters of land, which back then was like status quo in 2012, 2013. Today,
Shut the front door.
I know.
You're rich.
Can I say that didn't do shit for like till maybe 2019? It started to nudge a little bit. But I kind of just forgot about it because I was just too busy going, I got to buy, what can I afford today and then where am I going to buy? And just random opportunities sort of came up, but I always bought under the median house price, always in high growth corridors, always land with a single dwelling on it for all of them. And there was just some years where I had like a bit better of an earning year. I did an Airbnb like side hustle for a period that started out really good and then everyone discovered Airbnb. I'm sure you got some of those stories up your sleeve as well.
Yeah, I had an Airbnb side hustle too.
God, I had 10 of the things. Scrubbing toilets before going to your day job. Wouldn't recommend it. In saying that, it was a significant reason that I could buy property number 2 and 3. So I shouldn't say I wouldn't recommend it. It just is, cringeworthy to think about scrubbing those toilets at 5 and having a shower and coming to see you at the office, 3 hours later when we worked together for 5 minutes.
Well, this is the thing though. You got to do what you got to do in the beginning. And
I did.
Yeah. And it was the same for me as well, just anything to get started. And it's those first couple of steps which are the most difficult. And then when you actually turn the wheel, everything becomes easier. And the problems that were so significant, like a $10,000 val shortfall, disaster then, where now I'm sure you wouldn't blink an eye.
Like, it's not ideal, but I've had higher valuation shortfalls since. So I'm like, geez, that 10 grand really doesn't seem too bad. But yeah, like, it's like anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's not necessarily that you're not anxious at all or like you're not like second guessing it a little bit. Because I've done even the house that we settled, which was my owner occupied, like a family, and I'm like, oh, but you just sort of push through and I guess because I've scrubbed toilets before going to the 9 a.m, I just go, well, shit, if I have to do it again, I'll just do it, like, can it be that bad? Maybe, maybe not. Says the big bad developer, but yes, I have scrubbed a few toilets at 5 a.m.
If you had to give one piece of advice to a first home buyer looking to get into the market, what would it be?
Like off the top of my head, it's just go for it, but I don't want you to go for it without guidance. Truly, it sounds like I'm just saying that because I'm sitting with you, but you just got to go for it. Like, I have no regrets buying that first property 12 years ago, no regrets. But I did have wonderful guidance with the house and the land and even the broker that guided me at the time. We did use like 2 or 3 different banks to get the property settled in the end. So it was it was an arm wrestle, but we got there. So it's really just do it. Just do it. It's a little bit Shia LaBeouf. Just do it. Just do it. But it's so true. But yeah, do it with guidance. Do it with guidance of people who do it all the time. Yeah.
Alex Fitzgerald, thanks for coming in.
What do I get for that? Do I get $100? It's true though.
That was awesome.
It's really hot in here.